Hi, this is Pete Stanford again, looking at yet another radio. This is the Collins Radio R390, a spectacular receiver made in the early 1950s and was designed throughout the late 40s. This was a no expense spared, militarized receiver designed to support the US Armed Forces, and it did so from about 1950 throughout the way through to the 1980s, if you believe some of the text. It's an all-valve lineup, uses B7s, B9s. It's heavily reliant on a permeability tuning system for both PTO and all the tuned circuits inside. And it's just extraordinary. As I say, there was no expense spared, and at the time the price to purchase one of these in the 50s was some multiple of an average yearly income. Primarily, I think, driven by the need for reliable communications over long-haul distances, and having had throughout the Second World War BC 348s and AR-88s and SX-28s, a further development of a more reliable system. And in fact, this whole system is a modularized receiver. It has about 5-6 large detachable assemblies internally, which can all be pulled and plugged and swapped out at within reasonable, fixing time, and made to go again. But it was absolutely extraordinary, and it is an extraordinary receiver. This is probably about the fourth unit I've had, and this was in very, very sorry state when I got it. It had terrible corrosion all over the front screen, the front panel. The interior was heavily pitted and marked as well, and that's all cleaned up and replaced and fixed. New front panel, recently painted and fitted as well, and filled, I should say, as well. Meters seem to be okay, needed a bit of a clean, but it came up good. All the knobs are done. Obviously, endpoints on PTO, full realignment, and had the usual problems with selenium rectifiers. Most capacitors seemed okay. Resistors seemed okay. In fact, I suspect it was a fairly low mileage set that just got left in some humid place at some point, and I'm really happy with it at the moment. It's running very well. Performs to specs. It's got some 0.2 microvolts for a 10 dB super noise. The valves have been massaged, as they say. So let me just take a bit of a tour of it. The main set is dominated obviously by its central, what they call VIDA root frequency indicator, which is like the old speedo or mileometer in a car. And as it rotates around, it drops down the next sequential number. Now this is a 390 non-A. Some 4,000, 5,000 of these were made as a precursor to the 390A, which was a slightly costed down version of this. One of the strongest differences at a glance is that the antenna trim on a 390A is in the dead center at the top here, so it's a very quick way of checking from a distance whether it's a 390 or 390A. Now the whole gear train in here behind both the megacycles and kilocycles has some 30 gears, split gears. Some of them take up the anti-backlash, and as you adjust megacycles or kilocycles, as they were known, you adjusted a whole pre-select and IF tunable bandwidth, and absolutely extraordinary to watch. Plenty of photographs on the web about this. I did think about pulling this back out to show you, but at the moment I'll just give you a quick bit of a tour. So again, designed for the US Navy, armed services in general. All I can say is it's full of aluminium, stainless steel, ceramic, built to last. This receiver's some 70 years old. The Virgin was 70 years old now. And there's much of it still original inside, so it's absolutely extraordinary standard and quality of component usage. Anyway, a quick tour, as I say. We've got two meters each side, line level meter, which is in a volume unit, VU, and a 0 dBm at 600 ohms, carrier meter, dB per microvolt, for 1 microvolt, and all the niceties of the time where we can select the level of the line meter, whether we can put a bit of attenuation in to measure audio output, an independent line level out control here. They have an audio bandpass and low pass filter system here, so you can in CW line up on a sharp response, which is 800 Hertz, medium, which is 3.5, 4 kilohertz cutoff, and a wide, which I think is a bypass on this, if I remember rightly. Break-in for transmission. Main function switch is sets the AGC and standby and off as it would do in the on most receivers of the time. There's an addition of squelch on this particular receiver, which is quite interesting. It does work, but of little use today in the single sideband world. AGC, well, all I can say is it functions, but it's not a particularly good acting AGC. But it does get the job done, and does seem to run quite well. There's a limiter, which again seems to be, I've heard a lot of criticism about it, but fundamentally it's just a clipper, and everything's going to sound harsh as soon as you switch that, and there's no, that's fundamentally the way they work. There's an antenna trim here which peaks up the antenna on a basic variable capacitor, which is actually switched in for different bands. They start with a heavily loaded assembly at the lower ends, and they slowly switch out 2 or 3 sections as it gets higher. Now, where else are we? The whole system has a 1 kilohertz calibration reference inside. This one is actually the crystal's low active, so it's not working at the moment, but I will sort that out. All that functions, and it's got a clutch system where you can lock the mechanism, the reader mechanism at a particular .0 setting, and then adjust with a clutch system the drive interface to the VFO to get the exact correlation between the VIDA root drive and the VFO. Usual RF gain, AF gains, dial lock, so you could lock it to any particular frequency, and the main tune is not really, it's stabilized and doesn't allow you to knock it too easily. Obviously the BFO for CW reception and SSB, the pitch for BFO plus or minus 3 kilohertz, and a whole array of bandwidths here, starting at 16 as the widest, and going through 16, 8, 4, 2, 1, and then 0.1, with the lowest 2 being actually a crystal filter selection. Now, I have this late afternoon here in Brisbane. I will have a quick listen around on single sideband, and let's have a look what we can hear, if there's anything out there. Just try 20 meters. One thing that you'll notice is that this isn't a flywheel type response. This is a it's not particularly strong signal, but maybe we'll get some understanding what the single sideband is like. Narrowed down to 2 kilohertz. Just keep going up through the band. Yeah, you're adjusting a whole array of cams and shifts and levers here, and it feels like it. It's sort of smooth with all the anti-backlash, but it just stops dead when you stop adjusting it, which is normal. And you know, as I've had 4 of these, and each one's had slightly different feel to it. This one's, even with the full cleaning and lube of the system here, to an extreme point of all the rollers and everything, it still doesn't seem to be as light as some of the other ones are. But it is positive. It can't find anything wrong with it, so it's not chafing anything. It just must be a heavier unit to tune than some of the others. The band is actually a little bit quiet this afternoon, other than those stations we heard before. That's quite resolving. Now, interesting to note, I'm running this through a balun, so it's 50 ohms to 120 ohms, balanced input. The receiver has two receiver antennas inputs. One is an unbalanced, one is a balanced input. The unbalanced goes in a couple of stages in on the RF front end, and the balanced actually comes straight in onto the first RF transformer. And there's a couple of features there. One, you get the extra filtering, I guess, by using the balanced, and secondly, you can actually balance the balanced input to reduce any sort of common mode pickup along the cable. Just very nice. It is, and it does work, and it lines up. The thing about aligning one of these 390s, now I've aligned some 50, 60, 70 receivers in my life, and it's incredibly positive. It does exactly what you expect it to do on every adjustment. Not really had that kind of feel for a receiver before. Hate to talk about feelings on this, but it's an extremely positive response to everything you do on it. And whether you're adjusting the peakiness of the IF transformers, whether you're adjusting the SME, whether you're adjusting the RF front end, you adjust it, you come through the peak point, you go back, you settle on it. Brilliant. So many of these receivers from this vintage, the threads are a little bit sloppy, or the unit just seems to have some form of, we should call it hysteresis in the alignment, and you just never feel that everything's exactly peaked and locked in place. But this particular design is phenomenal in that regard. So you just know it's peaked and tweaked, and it just holds its cow. The stability alone on the VFO is incredible. I mean, they actually ironically put heaters on these things, and to ovenize the VFO and the crystals at the back. But even without that, it outstrips anything of the day. You can leave it on a frequency and it'll drift 10 hertz, 20 hertz if you're lucky in an hour, or unlucky, should we say. So it is an incredible work of art, and we will never see anything like this again, that's for sure. I also have a 390A and a 391, which I'd like to run through as well, just as a comparison. Especially the 391, which is fundamentally a 390 with a auto-tune front end, and those are very impressive to watch when they're using the memories, the digital memories, the mechanical memories. It's an interesting to watch it unlock up. Anyway, without further ado, I'll just have a quick more of a tune. No, very, very quiet. I'm not sure 15 will be open. We'll have a quick look. As you see, it's a lot of computer hash in this area. It's in urban Brisbane. I'll have to find someone with this. No, one's there. Well, we'll have a quick look at the shortwave bands, and this afternoon we should have Radio New Zealand, which is one of my favourite sort of target signals that you can pick up in the afternoons. Remember rightly, it's 7:30. We'll take it up to 8 kilohertz. We'll recenter the BFO so we can actually zero it when you find it.
Police began escorting people off and arresting those who would not leave.
10 years later, in 1988,
so to actually zero on this, I'll just put the BFO on. It was anyway. Okay. So it's pretty much online. We're now at 8 kilohertz bandwidth.
The government decision released a short time ago. The government says the key to restoration
okay, so we're all zoomed in on the signal. The audio response is on medium. I'll move it to wide.
Will be vested in the Ngāti Whātua. On the financial side of the deal, the Crown has
we'll also go up to 16 kilohertz just to see.
Ngāti Whātua Trust Board liability to the Maori trustee.
$118,000
in interest paid on the Iraqi block mortgage will be refunded.
is the audio recovered quality. I know I'm banging on about this on other receivers, but it's quite very pleasant. Even from the phone stuck it into an external amplifier. Very pleasant sound.
The government has also agreed to pay.
Now this is slightly varying, of course, in signal strength, but if you're looking at the medium wave bands, it's incredible. You're getting 80, 90 dB of above 1 microvolt, and you get outstanding audio. I'll pop down there in a minute.
So
let's have a look around the band. So, in China, find there. Let's try it again. Let's swing it back to 8. It's a little bit easier to identify then. We'll put it back to medium. Hold the ears. Okay, a lot going on. That's one of the problems with the 1 megahertz dial-in per band. Once you go through to the top of any particular broadcast band, if it's split across split across a megahertz, you've got to kick in and then tune down again. But I'll just take it down to 10 megs. Bear in mind that you can get to the top of 9 megs and also receive 10 megs, and it will tell you exactly where you are. So here's WWV. Coming through. So if you want to know what it sounded like in Australia, that's typically the signal you'd get certainly afternoon, early evening. Just have a quick look at the aeronautical bands as well while we're here. Let's go back to upper sideband is basically the negative lower frequency for the VFO, and obviously upside going to be the higher end. So let's just think about what I'm doing here. Right, before we so we get some kind of balance going on here. Now 8867 is Brisbane. We're about a kilohertz high because of the BFO. So let's just see if there's anything coming through there at all. I'll just. There is someone there. Well, no. San Francisco. The Southern Pacific SP1, I think it is, group covers Brisbane, San Francisco, Nauru, there's a few others in the area. But if you don't hear Brisbane, then you hear San Francisco. Brisbane's about 12 miles away, and San Francisco is about, some 7, 8, 9,000 K? So it's a good haul tonight for San Francisco to be coming in here. Someone here back there. Open. The lights are starting to go in here, so I might just put it on. Okay, just to finish out, the light was going, so I had to put the internal light on here. But we'll have a quick tune through the medium wave band, really just to give it exposure to the performance of the audio on the lower bands. Right now we're tuned to one of the Radio National signals. Now we're running straight off a small loop here.
Absolutely, Andrew, but what they need to do now is take...
So that's 8 kilohertz in the medium audio response.
They haven't looked, they've certainly looked getting up the park. We've seen
Let's take it to a slightly wider, and we'll go wider on the IF band.
Andrew, they have no problem at all making yardage. It's when they get into this field position, 10 metres.
It's quite impressive. I remember first hearing this years and years and years ago, and always staggered by the audio quality. Let's see if we can find some other.
Because there is some resistance or there is some confusion from staff around how much information parents should be given. They're concerned that they don't want to be seen to be creating an opposition to Scripture, but really we are providing an option for those children sitting in non-Scripture each week who don't...
The quietening is quite impressive. It's almost, I'm not going to say FM quality, but it's quite impressive. It's very, very nice.
When the policy was changed and the law was changed, 2010, 2011...
we'll just go and find some music, shall we?
Visit biopacific.com.au. Dog might be man's best friend, but sometimes it's hard to understand what they want.
No, as I mentioned, we're at 16 kilohertz on the widest setting, so it's letting a fair bit of the band in.
Complete Canine Communication is a monthly 2-day workshop.
We'll just go back. That's an 8 kilohertz IF with the audio response setting wide, and that's the medium. So the medium is really for communications type, 4 kilohertz and below. Cut off, I think it's 3.5 kilohertz is the actual on the filter. And I'm going to go to town on the radio advertising before they give us some music.
The 50 Up Club has been swamped this past month with thank you emails from their happy members that all save big money on their energy bills.
Okay, let's try another
solar panels. It was only getting a small
station. Now, as I say, these. Oh, you wish you could just flick it and it'll tune down, but it's not going to. It's very much a dead feel to the. And that's the only thing I would comment on. However, having said that, it's also a very positive indicator.
Every time you do something unfamiliar,
again, this is not the local strong signal.
Other than the ones it normally does. During
Still a lot of talk radio this afternoon. Gives a bit more of an appreciation today. Not a very strong signal though. Even weaker signal. And yes, we are in Australia. So some of the other stations.
Down on premium, Cosmic Forces there, and Blast One Piece not too far away. Then
and the horse racing. So there we have it. The R390 non-A, the original unit. As I said in the very beginning, a very spectacular receiver. Unequivocally, and I wouldn't even want to argue, but it's probably the best valve receiver ever made, and it has an incredible history, length of service which was longer than any other receiver. What can I say? It's hard to beat it. If you're looking for one receiver, I suspect with your for your shack of this vintage, then I would recommend seriously consider a 390. The only aspect of these receivers is they do take a bit of feeding and looking after. Having them all modularized is one thing, but actually being able to get in there and do the tests is another. One thing in passing, and I haven't, again, aligned and played with radios for some years, the suite of test gear to get these things going is not that exhaustive. A good solid HF SIG-gen, some method of measuring the, either you can do it the AF output in terms of power, or a VTVM for measuring the diode load, is all you need. And with just those 2 or 3 instruments, you can basically fully realign this and even fault find. It's not difficult to fault find and identify the actual module at fault. What can be a problem is you often find you've got to pull something like the RF deck out to get to a capacitor in one of the tuned circuits, which has gone open or something. But that's the horrendous end of it. But often it's just a tube. You know, a connector not properly home, a little bit of jiggling all sorted out, a bit of deoxit. So they are good when they're running. If you're going to get one of these, try and get one running. Because if they're running, you're in a good start point for keeping it going for an awful long time. But this is the first one I've done with the front panel repaint and fill, and I'm quite happy with the results. So I may well go and do this with the other ones. Bear in mind the R390 non-A has an engraved front panel. Fundamentally all of them, I'm led to believe. But the R390A, the subsequent receiver, some are engraved, but a lot are silk screened. So if you've got a silk screen front panel on your 390, you're really not going to be able to refinish it that easily, and that means you'll never really get the full impact of a nice clean looking front panel. Anyway, R390A, R390, R391, and they even produce the R392 for the Army, which is a DC, a low voltage DC version of this, in a green box. Extraordinary. I'll let you guys decide, and any questions, please put them in the box below, as they say. Thanks so much for watching.